Chernobyl, the site of the world's largest nuclear accident, which on April 26 of 1986, Chernobyl nuclear reactor number 4 overloaded and exploded, releasing thousands of tons of nuclear material and radiation throughout the surrounding area, including the town of Pripyat, and as well as throughout southeastern Europe. And this is what's left behind: decaying ruins and nature growing over. Now, it has been 35 years since the horrific accident. In this documentary, which is the second one of its kind on the channel, we are going to be visiting Chernobyl and fully breaking down the chain of events that led to this horrific explosion, which led to this accident. So welcome to Chernobyl. Fallout come true. Once a thriving metropolis back in its time, Pripyat had high potential for being one of the best cities to live in at the time. Over 50,000 people lived in this city before the accident. A new carnival, which as you're seeing here, which was supposed to be open to the public and for the entire city, now is left in ruins, with nature taking over what was taken from it. What was once a thriving town with happy people, children laughing and running around playing just like usual, Pripyat is now a desolate, quiet ghost town. Lots of people, even to this day, flock to Chernobyl, as well as Pripyat, to have a good look around and to explore the ruins that have been left behind 35 years later. The moment you step into this place, you get Stalker vibes, which is a game that takes place in this same town. But to me, this place is like Fallout, because to this day, Chernobyl and all of Pripyat is still heavily radioactive. How radioactive? Well, there are people still living in Chernobyl and around Pripyat, but they have adapted to the radiation, and they're living with the radiation. Because even though we humans have been thriving on this planet for the past 4 million years, Pripyat is providing us with a completely different challenge to overcome in our evolution and survival. But despite all the radiation that has plagued the area, Pripyat and Chernobyl's wildlife has not changed a bit. Well, except a little bit of them. Wolves, deer, and even fish that live in the waters, and especially in the lake that supplied reactor number 4, have adapted to the radiation that was spilled into their environments. They have mutated and adapted to the changes. But unfortunately, we humans have not been fully able to adapt to these changes. Because if one stays in Chernobyl and Pripyat for a certain amount of time, they can get cancer from soaking in all the radiation that is leaking the town. And reactor number 4 is still the epicenter of the radioactive leak that is still going on to this day. But they have managed to make and build a solution to try and get started on cleaning up the mess from the accident, of which I'll get into that later. But there is a lot more to Chernobyl than anyone once thought, because on the inside, after reactor number 4 was put back together on the outside, on the inside, it is completely trashed. Pieces of burned metal, soaked in radiation, now litter the inside of the power plant. It is completely unsafe to travel through, unless you have the proper survival, well, not really survival, but the proper equipment, plus your Geiger counters. You have to tread carefully when you're exploring inside the power plant, which once housed reactor number 4, but detonated 35 years ago. And as you can see here, this is the damage that was done from the explosion all those years ago. Wires, the ceiling caving in, wires being broken and snapped, rusticles growing on the metal that is surrounding the inside of the power plant, all the power cut off, phones not working, the dials completely destroyed, and most of the entire inside of the power plant is just completely destroyed. This was by far the worst nuclear accident that has ever happened. But the one in Japan was just as bad. But this one is one of the most famous. Because as you can see here, thanks to this footage by YouTuber Some Stuff, he has managed to capture the inside of the reactor. And as you can see here, the damage is unbelievable. It is unfathomable amount of damage that this explosion has caused. Completely, well, almost completely unrecognizable to this day, reactor number 4 is still the epicenter of this horrific accident. Despite what has happened to it, which again I'll go on to later, reactor number 4 is still too dangerous to get near. But over time, as they clean up the mess from the accident, Chernobyl and Pripyat will still be a very popular tourist attraction, and despite COVID going around today, the radiation is still the biggest danger in Chernobyl and Pripyat. And say if you were to go there for like a few weeks or even a few months, well, there's pretty much a 50-50 chance that you'll either survive or come out mutated and grow in an extra set of arms, or an extra eyeball, or, well, you get what I mean. Chernobyl and Pripyat, to this day, they still give off creepy vibes. And like I said earlier, it gives me Fallout vibes, because as you can see in this amazing footage captured and made by YouTuber PS Films, this should give you an idea of what it would be like to walk through Chernobyl and throughout Pripyat and explore the buildings. You will see stuff lying everywhere. Children's toys, clothes, masks, newspapers, personal belongings like shoes, pictures, all that stuff. And no, it is not safe to take home, because everything here is irradiated. So pretty much everything you touch inside this place is radioactive. Scientists predict that all of Chernobyl and Pripyat won't return to safe pre-accident levels until the next estimated 26,000 years. So for now, we will have to be very, very cautious whilst walking through Chernobyl and Pripyat. The Ferris wheel is slowly being taken over by nature. The bumper cars, which as you can see here, are slowly being taken over by nature. To me, this is a beautiful sight. Just seeing nature grow over and take back what we took from it is an absolutely beautiful sight. And if you're up for abandoned exploration, Chernobyl is the place for you. But it'll cost you your life if you're not careful, so tread carefully the next time you think of traveling to Chernobyl and Pripyat. But 35 years ago, Chernobyl and Pripyat were a completely different place. Because 35 years ago, it was very, very different. And this is what it was like before the accident 35 years ago. To the disaster, Pripyat was a thriving industrial city, living not too far away from Chernobyl. Over 50,000 people thrived in this city, including businessmen, police officers, firefighters, mailmen and women, you name it. All kinds of people were living in this town prior to the explosion. Life was great in Pripyat before the accident. There was also schools, theaters, and all kinds of fun activities for people to participate in during their time in Pripyat and during Pripyat's glory days. It was paradise. And Pripyat kept getting new additions pretty much almost every year. And the schools were very successful in Pripyat prior to the accident. But that wouldn't last for much longer. Because on the day of the accident, they got this evacuation message, as y'all are about to hear right now.
Внимание! 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 Внимание, внимание! Уважаемые товарищи, Городской совет народных депутатов сообщает, что в связи с аварией на Чернобыльской атомной электростанции в городе Припяти складывается неблагоприятная радиационная обстановка. Партийными и советскими органами, воинскими частями принимаются необходимые меры. Однако, с целью обеспечения полной безопасности людей и в первую очередь детей возникает необходимость провести временную эвакуацию жителей города в пункты Киевской области. Для этого каждому жилому дому сегодня, 27 апреля, начиная с 14:00 часов, будут поданы автобусы в сопровождении работников милиции и представителей горисполкома. Рекомендуется с собой взять документы, крайне необходимые вещи, а также, на первый случай, продукты питания. Руководителями предприятий и учреждений определен круг работников, которые остаются на месте для обеспечения нормального функционирования города. Все жилые дома на период эвакуации будут охраняться работниками милиции. Товарищи, временно оставляя свое жилье, не забудьте, пожалуйста, закрыть окна, выключить электрические и газовые приборы, перекрыть водопроводные краны. Просим соблюдать спокойствие, организованность и порядок при проведении временной эвакуации.
This is the video that fully explains what caused reactor number 4 to explode and lead to this horrific accident.
The world's worst civilian nuclear disaster took place when a reactor exploded at the Chernobyl power plant in Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union. Present-day Belarus received 60% of the initial fallout. The radioactive cloud spread further to cover most of Europe. The Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant was one of the Soviet Union's most advanced facilities. The first two reactors became operational in the late 1970s. The fourth reactor was the newest, going online in 1983. On April 26, 1986, technicians prepared to test the backup cooling system in reactor number 4. But the routine safety drill went horribly wrong. A nuclear reactor is like a giant steam engine. Uranium fuel rods react to produce a massive amount of heat. That converts water into steam, which drives huge turbines to generate electricity. Control rods are inserted in between the uranium to slow the reaction. And it's crucial for cooling water to be pumped around the core to prevent overheating. But as the test began, almost all of the control rods were removed, and technicians lost control of the flow of coolant. Temperatures soared, and extreme heat began to melt the core. At 1:23 a.m., Reactor 4 exploded. It spewed 8 tons of radioactive debris into the atmosphere. 115,000 people were evacuated from a 30-kilometer zone around the plant. The battle to put out the fires inside lasted for 15 days. More than 500,000 military and civilian personnel were drafted to deal with the accident and its aftermath. 31 of the initial firefighters and plant workers died within days from acute radiation sickness. The toxicity of the radioactive cloud was equivalent to 400 Hiroshima atomic bomb explosions. Crews hastily built a concrete sarcophagus to encase the entire reactor to prevent more radiation from spreading. Inside, there remain 200 tons of radioactive fuel. The remaining 3 reactors continued to operate due to energy shortages in Ukraine. It wasn't until the year 2000 that the Chernobyl complex was completely shut down. With the concrete sarcophagus crumbling, the international community began to build a new confinement structure for Reactor 4. It stands 110 meters tall, higher than the Statue of Liberty, and it's wide enough to fit a ship the size of the Titanic. At a projected cost of $3 billion, construction is scheduled for completion in 2017. One of Chernobyl's iconic red and white chimneys will be dismantled, and the massive steel dome will slide over reactor number 4. The confinement structure is expected to last for at least 100 years.
But unfortunately, very little could have been done to prevent what happens next.
It combines with hydrogen and superheated graphite. The chain of disaster is now complete.
But fortunately, a new solution has come into play that'll change Pripyat forever. A huge dome made of solid steel has been built and has been rolled over reactor number 4, of which the effect of this is gonna help them get a head start on cleaning up the mess that the explosion from all those years ago has created. And the solution is to air seal reactor number 4 tightly shut so that the radiation can stop leaking for at least the certain amount of time that they have installed this big dome. Unfortunately, this was a long process. It took them between 2013 and just a few years ago from today to finally complete the dome and to finish it up and get it into place. This is going to lead to the cleaning up process of Pripyat for many, many years to come. But unfortunately, the entire cleanup process itself is not gonna get started and commence until the next estimated 26,000 years. Because the kind of radiation that's now surrounding Chernobyl and Pripyat is the most dangerous kind of radiation that is out there. Not just on Earth, but also in space, is gamma radiation. Gamma radiation is basically the powerful virus, basically the COVID of radiation. It's extremely dangerous to the point of where it alternates your genes, changes your genetic code, makes you mutate, and grow, say, an extra set of arms, another eyeball, another nose, another set of ears. You get what I'm talking about. But if you're thinking of traveling to Chernobyl, you're gonna need some very specific equipment if you are to visit Chernobyl and to come out of there alive. And without further ado, to get those who are wanting to go to Chernobyl and Pripyat to visit, you are gonna have to watch and listen very closely, because these are the following pieces of equipment that you are most certainly going to need the next time that you're thinking of traveling to Chernobyl. Now, pay close attention, and you'll be fine the next time you think of traveling to Chernobyl and Pripyat. now that you know what to expect and what to wear the next time you think of traveling to Chernobyl and Pripyat, you now know what to do in order to stay safe while you visit and explore this old run-down town, of which in the next 26,000 years will make a comeback and will thrive once again. But until then, all that is going to remain in the future, and we will just have to wait and see what happens, whilst the dome that is now over reactor number 4 is going to do effects-wise. This has been the 35th anniversary memorial special of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, which was quite frankly the biggest and most horrific nuclear accident that has ever happened in history. And what is left behind is a town that is slowly decaying and being taken over by nature. I hope you all have learned a valuable lesson of what radiation can do to humans, and this accident is evidence of that. Now, rest in peace to all those who have died from the accident so far, and may God have mercy on your souls in the future. Take care, and I will see you all next time. Peace out, hombres, and stay safe, and don't die out there. I mean it. Take care.